Good morning, everybody. Welcome to LifeHouse. My name is Ryan. Great to see you. We believe in a God, a Father who loves us. If you're in the room, I want to invite you to stand. We want to sing this song with you and over you this morning. Well, sometimes on this journey, I get lost in my mistakes. What looks to me like weakness is a canvas for your strength. And my story isn't over. No, my story's just begun. And failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. And failure won't define me, that's what my Father does. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house, yeah. Arrival's not the end game. Oh, the journey's where you are. You never wanted perfect, you just wanted my heart. And the story isn't over, yeah, the story isn't good. And failure's never final when the Father's in the room. I said now, failure's never final when the Father's in the room. Oh, lay your burdens down. Oh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Oh, you're in the Father's house. The prodigals come home, helpless find hope. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Prison doors fling wide, the dead come to life. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Miracles take place, or the cynical find faith. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Jericho walls are quaking, strongholds now are shaking. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. I said now, love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Oh, lay your burdens down. Oh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Yeah. Oh, you're in the Father's house. Oh, lay your burdens down. Oh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Yeah. Oh, you're in the Father's house.
Well, good morning, everybody. You all can have a seat. My name is Matt Braun. I'm the lead pastor here at LifeHouse. So glad that everybody's here, and those of you online that you're hanging out with us. But if you're new, we're super excited for you to be here too. Just so you know, this week I was traveling. I flew home from Denver on Friday, and if you hang around our church, every time I get on a plane, something happens. So I got on a plane, and we got on the tarmac, and then of course the pilot comes on and says, it's gonna be a 30-minute wait, and 2.5 hours later, we were still waiting there. Now, you may not know this about me, but I'm a little claustrophobic, and that plane got smaller and smaller as I sat there. And about 15 minutes into sitting there, a couple next to me pulled out 6 Tupperware containers, and it was their dinner, and it was the most garlicky, Parmesan-y meal I've ever smelled in my life. And they cracked it open, and I love some garlic. Don't get me wrong, I love some good garlic in that little tiny composed pan, and I thought I was going to turn into the Hulk and rip the thing apart. I just got super claustrophobic. But if you've ever experienced that, I looked down the aisle towards the front of the plane, and you know what's in the front of the plane? You know what's in the front of the plane? First freaking class is in the front of the plane. And I thought, I hate those people. And I didn't really think that. But I thought, well, they're in such, I'd love to go up and sit with them as opposed to the Parmesan couple next to me. And I tell you that because when you walk on a plane, you kind of think there's first class, and then there's the rest of us. And I just want you to know that if you're visiting our church, you're checking this church out, you're online, there's no first and second class in our church. We're just a bunch of people trying to figure out how to follow God, keep our head above water, and find life in a world that sometimes is challenging. And I'm so glad you're here, whether you come often or this is your first or second time. Hey, so I want to let you know that in a couple weeks on July 23rd, we're going to have a nice night of worship here at 7 o'clock. It's where we take communion together. We sing a lot of songs. We'd love for you to consider coming and put that on your calendar. But for today, just so you know, if you're new, we're going to be here about an hour. Ryan and the band are going to lead us in a few more songs, and I'm going to continue our series, The Games We Play. And I hope it's helpful for all of us as we take steps in our faith and figure out how to follow Jesus. I am so glad that we are all here in Coach together. Let's stand and let's sing our next song, if you would.
Thanks, Kayla, for leading us in that song. Thank you guys for singing with us. Y'all can take your seats. I love what Matt said earlier about how there's no first-class citizens, and you may walk in, you may feel like that there's first class and there's not. I love that. And it's the reason why we sing a song like that, because all of us are on an even playing field. We are all, and this guy included, we're broken people. Some of us have just chosen to accept the gift that we just sang about. There's no greater love than the love of Jesus. Some of us have chosen to accept that gift. It's available to all of us. And we're on the path of trying to be made whole again with Jesus' help. So many of us in this room and in this building and watching online who have taken that step have also taken a step to give back what we've been given. As we're working and as we're being made more and more into the people like Jesus, and we're still broken along the way, trying to get there, but so many of us have chosen to give, and an awesome way to do that around here is to serve. We give to other people. Hundreds of you have chosen to do that. And I want to tell you about one person in our church who has made that decision to serve. This is Candy Lammers. There's Candy right there. And Candy and her husband, Bill, their 2 kids and grandkids. And Candy has been around LifeHouse since the very beginning. LifeHouse started 18 years ago. Candy has been here since the beginning. She's been serving since the beginning. She's served in just about every capacity in this church over the years. But right now, she's currently a small group leader for 7th grade girls in Transit, which is our middle school environment. And in fact, she's been with that group of girls for 6 years. So she started with them when they were in 1st grade in Upstreet for our elementary kids, and she has moved up with them along the way. And she told me this. She said, at first, the idea of a weekly commitment 6 years ago was a little hard. She said for about a month, and then she got over it, and to the point where she does not miss a Sunday. She would not miss a Sunday with these girls. Let's put up a picture of the group there. So these are some of her girls, just some of them, that she's made an impact on their lives. And Ellie Zuber, who's our student director, had this to say about Candy. She said, Candy shows up every week ready to love and lead the girls in her small group. She connects with everyone and has built a fun and safe space for them to grow in their faith. And there's one story I wanted to share with you guys. There's a 7th grade girl named Sophie, and Sophie made the decision a year ago to get baptized in this room. And baptism is just a way for somebody to go public with their faith. Sophie shared her story, and then she got dunked in that tank of water over there. And she invited Candy to be in the tank with her because she's made such an impact on her life. We got a picture from a year ago. There's Sophie and Candy after the baptism. And we asked Sophie, what does Candy mean to you? And so Sophie wanted to share this with you all and wanted to share this with Candy. So here's what she had to say. She said, Candy, you are an inspiration to all of us, and we strive to be like you someday. You listen to our problems, have dinner with us, come to our events, and laugh at our unfunny jokes. I love that part. But Sophie went on, and she said, you always know just the way to make us smile. Even with how busy you are, you always manage to make time for us. And Candy's busy. She owns her own construction management company, so she's got a busy life, but she makes time to be here with these girls every week. And then Sophie finished up. She said, your teaching has made an impact on my life, and each week I look forward to seeing you because you make me happier. Thank you, Candy. You are our hero. That's from Sophie. Can we give it up for Candy and just the way that she shows up and serves? Let's put that picture back up of those girls. And Candy said she loves serving. The reason that she does it is to see these girls grow in their faith. And thanks to her just showing up, and Candy would be the first to tell you, just like I'm the first to tell you I'm a broken person. She'd say, I was a broken person and still am, but we've been able to grow as we served. And so if you hear that story about Candy, and if any part of that resonates with you, even on a small level, and if you've been around LifeHouse, or heck, even if you're new to LifeHouse, and that resonates with you, I want to invite you, and if you don't currently serve, I want to invite you to consider serving just like Candy does.
There are places all over the church. You don't have to serve with middle school students. We've got elementary kids. We've got parking lot, production. There are so many different areas. And we want to make it easy for you to find out what that's like. And so we have this cool thing called Backstage Pass. It's happening next Sunday at 11 o'clock during second service right at this time. And it's a 1 hour behind the scenes tour of all of our environments. And so if you've never seen what Student World is like, and if you've never seen what Kids World's like, and you want to check back in the production room and see what those guys are doing back there, we would love to invite you to do that. And if you show up to Backstage Pass and you'll get a tour and get information, just know there's no obligation for you to serve. There's really not. We're not going to hound you. We want you to just take a first step. And that's a great first step, is just to see what's out there, to see where maybe you might fit in. So that's next Sunday, Backstage Pass, 11 o'clock. Would love to invite you. And I promise, if you decide to go, and if you decide then to serve somewhere, you'll be so glad you did. You get the chance to change people's lives, just like Candy has helped change the lives of seventh grade girls, and your faith will grow as well. We're going to keep going with the rest of our service. Now I'm going to turn things back over to Matt, our lead pastor, for today's message.
Hey everybody, Andrew Stanley here. We're playing some more games. We're out here letting everyday people challenge pros. Today's game is one of everybody's favorites, golf. We're gonna see how this goes. All right, I'm here with our golf pro for today, Alexis Belton. Alexis, how you doing?
Doing well.
What we're doing is a long drive competition and an accuracy competition. We are gonna level the playing field a little bit and make you guys compete with these foam balls.
Oh, wow. With the wind, it could actually affect me a little bit.
Okay, it might be an advantage to the common folks.
Yes.
What's your golf experience level?
I took a PE class in college.
Oh, you almost hit the monument. And as usual, yes. Congratulations. You can put that with your other trophies. Ooh, it sounded good. I don't know if we're gonna need to measure. I'm sorry that we have infant-sized medals. Maybe take some more PE classes, come back and see us again. What's your golf experience level?
I've been to Topgolf twice.
That should do it.
Ooh.
Straight. And it looks like that's gonna be pretty much right in the circle. We have another medal for Alexis. What do you think went wrong with the accuracy?
You know, I didn't check the wind.
And they don't have wind at Topgolf, so
Yeah.
it would make sense. And
Woo! Oh, that was better. What?
and
She's cheating.
not quite as straight.
This was not accuracy.
This is not accuracy. She plays the game that is given to her. Congratulations. Okay, so we're here with a real fierce challenger now. We have Brooks, who is not a pro, but high school champion. Brooks, how do you feel about our competitions we have set up?
We got a real pro here, but I'm here to show my skills.
Oh, that looks good.
Saucy.
Ooh.
Starting to get way down.
You hit it right between those adolescents. That was beautiful. Brooks is further, but I can't
We
tell.
might have to check.
All right, I'm going to do the measurer. 1, 2, 3. Should I count the whole time? Thank you guys for putting up with us. I'm pretty sure they made me do this just to make fun of me. Brooks is the winner. 239 to 274. Congratulations, Brooks. Does this look cool? Does I look cool?
I've watched that video 3 times today, and I keep thinking a foam ball to one of those people's heads would have made that video better. That's terrible. Anyway, hey, I'm Matt. If you missed the welcome, I'm a lead pastor here. And last week, Andy, our video teaching pastor, who shows up around here once in a while, kicked off this series. And I just want you to know, if you missed last week, I would highly recommend, urge, beg you to go back and watch it, because it was so helpful. Now, in this whole idea of the games people play, Andy said that he is not real competitive. I need you to know, for me, that my life has been characterized by being overly competitive. I just need you to know that about me. When my kids were little, and when a good dad lets his 3-year-old win, oh man, I never let my 3-year-old win. It's just the way I'm wired. In fact, I mentioned earlier today that I went on a trip. I was out west with some other pastors at a retreat center, and we did fishing every day. We fly fished on the Bighorn River. And usually when I go out there, I do really well fishing, and I brag that I'm the best best fishermen, yada, yada, yada. Well, this time we fished for 3 days. Day 1, nothing. Day 2, nothing. While everybody else is catching fish. Day 3, I only caught 2 fish. And I thought, literally, I'm going to sabotage the other guys, my friends, fellow pastors in the gospel, their fishing lines, or cut them or do something to them, because I was so tired of being the loser. Because I squarely believe in the theology of, if you're not cheating, you ain't trying. That's just it's a theme for me. You do everything you can because I'm super competitive. This whole deal that we give trophies to everybody that's young, I don't like that at all, just so you know. And if you're on my team with that, just know we're in the same mindset. And if you're not, that's okay. Glad you're here. So I'm competitive. Some of you are super competitive. You need to know that there is an area that it's dangerous to be competitive in. And if you were here last week, you probably heard this, and that's the area of relationships. Because what we learned last week is, in relationships, a game that requires a loser is a game nobody wins. In relationships, that's fine with sports or, achieving in the office place, when it comes to sales, whatever you do, it's okay to be competitive. But when it comes to relationships, if there is a loser, everybody loses. Because there's a fracture. With your friends, if you're the winner and they're the loser, you're not really the winner, you've lost, because there's distance. In a marriage, with your little kids or your adult children, if there's a winner and a clear loser, everybody loses. Because when a partner becomes an opponent, we get real critical, we get real judgmental, and there are gaps. And where this shows up in the games we play easily in our lives is the blame game. Because the blame game means I believe the outcome, if it's a negative outcome, is not my fault. It's not my fault. And you know people that there's a negative outcome in their life and their go-to answer, it's not my fault. And the truth is, maybe someone would say that about you, and maybe someone would say that about me. And if you're kind of good with your words and you talk real fast and you can be articulate, you can really make great reasons why it's not your fault and convincing points why it's not my fault and it's really their fault and his fault and her fault, but it's not my fault. And it can feel like you're winning in those moments. But in the blame game, when it's not my fault and it is, you're not winning, you're actually losing. And so today, I'm so glad you all are here and are online. We're gonna look at an Old Testament hero that played the blame game along the way. It's a hero that we see just a little bit of failure in his life. And that hero, and he's one of my favorite guys, is a man called Moses. Now Moses, you may know this, but if you don't, Moses was the hero that God used to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. They had been captured or slaves for 400 years. Moses leads them out through the Red Sea, which is amazing. And who your Moses is on TV or the movies depends if you're younger or older. If you're older, it's Charlton Heston. If you're younger, it's Christian Bale, so you pick. And there's probably another Moses coming along sooner or later. But Moses leads the people through the Red Sea and leads them to Mount Sinai. He gives them the law. And you need to know this, that Moses wrote primarily the first 5 books of the Bible, the first 5 books of the Old Testament, what we call the Torah or the Pentateuch, which means Moses documents his own life and writes about it. And 3 different times at least, he plays the blame game in the writings that he wrote down on paper. It's in Deuteronomy, one of the first 5 books of the Bible, and this is what Moses said by his own words. He said, "Because of you, the Lord became angry with me." And he's basically talking about the Israelite people, the people that he led and loved. He's like, because of all you chumps, foolish people, idiots, whatever he might have thought about them, God's angry with me. It's your fault that God's upset with me. Just a couple chapters later in Deuteronomy 3, it says, "But because of you, God would not listen to me." And the next chapter over, he says, "Because of you, he, God, solemnly swore that I would not cross the Jordan and enter the good land." Over and over, Moses is like, y'all hung me out to dry. I'm in a bad space because it's your fault. And this last verse, when he said we won't cross in the promised land, the promised land was this land that was promised to the Israelites. It was called the land of milk and honey. It was so prosperous. It was so good. They would go from being slaves to a land that was essentially not perfect, but as close as you could be in this world. And along this journey from leaving Egypt to getting into the promised land, there were 2 events that were very similar. The first happens in what's called Exodus, 17. Remember, they were slaves, they became free, and on Mount Sinai, Moses gets the 10 Commandments and the law. And he got that because the Israelites, they were God's people, but they had been slaves for 400 years, and they didn't know how to follow God, they didn't know how to trust God, and they didn't know how to live in relationship with one another because they'd just been slaves. They didn't know anything but what their master had told them, and so God's like, here's my law, trust me with your lives. Well, they struggled trusting God, and they could have been in the promised land in a matter of weeks or maybe a month or two, and they instead wandered around the desert for 40 years trying to get this ingrained in them before they went to the promised land. Now, an event happened in Exodus 17 that also similarly happened in Numbers chapter 20, which again is in the first 5 books of the Bible. In both these accounts, the Israelites were out in the desert without enough water. And it's really dangerous not to have water, especially in the desert. You can make it for a while without food. You know this. You can't live long without water. And so in the beginning, in the first story, Exodus 17, the people, they need water. And God says, Moses, I want you to take your staff and I want you to hit the rock. And this is kind of a strange story. It might be hard for you to believe if you're new to this whole thing, but Moses documented it. Thousands of people saw it. He hits a rock with the staff because God told him to. And out of this rock comes gushing water. It's crazy. And the Israelites have been grumbling for water, grumbling, and they get what they need. And then you go to Exodus 17. That's where Moses strikes the rock, and the people feed their animals. They drink until they have their full. But back to Numbers 20, 40 plus years later, it's the same situation. 40 years later, Moses and the people are like, we need something to hydrate with. And the story's very similar, but just a little bit different. And here's what we find in Numbers chapter 20. God says, Moses, you and Aaron is Moses' older brother, they led together. You and Aaron must take the staff and assemble the entire community. Moses' staff represented God's power, his strength, and it had been used to do amazing things. You can read that on your own. In fact, I would love for you to read both of these passages if you have time sometime this week. He gathered the people and assembled them. As the people watched, God said, speak to the rock. And I know this is a little strange. Speak to the rock over there, and it will pour out its water. So the first time, 40 years earlier, God said, smack the rock with your staff. Now, years have gone by. Now I want you to do this strange thing and speak to the rock. And what we're told is that Moses did as he was told. Now, it's interesting. Moses wrote this. And you know this, when we write about ourselves, we are usually generous to ourselves in the way we write about ourselves. And Moses does this exact thing because Moses writes, he did what he was told, and that's true. And it's not true. It's true, but it's not. Because this is what Moses says. He, Moses, took the staff from the place where it was kept before the Lord. And then he and Aaron, his brother, summoned the people to come and to gather the rock. They did what God said. So good, so far. Now I gotta pause for a minute because this is kind of a big deal. What they're about to do, what they're told to do is weird. And if you're new to faith and you're new to following God, you're sitting with people that have decided to make some strange choices in their lives. They've decided to start doing some stuff that they'd never done before that's good for them. And they started not doing some stuff that's not so good for them because they decided to trust God with their lives. And it looks weird looking in, but what we find is when we follow God and trust God, you know, our story is, man, my life just went in a better direction. The path forward was so much better. And sometimes God asks us to do some weird stuff. And then when we do it, we follow, we're like, oh, that's what God was up to. That's what he wanted me to do. And so Moses, he's moving down this path of doing what God told him to do. Gather the people and come gather at the rock. He goes ahead, he says, switch gears. Listen, you rebels. Remember, Moses was just supposed to gather the people and speak to the rock. Instead, he speaks to the people and says, listen, you rebels. He shouted at them, must we bring you water from this rock? And this is kind of simple. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but underneath these words are something that's going on that's going to get Moses in a really tricky, tough spot. And this is where Moses goes off the rails in his own personal life. And so just to back out and look at this is Numbers chapter 20. We just already established this. And there's lots of details, but there's two things I want to point out to you. That God, in Numbers 20, he says, speak to the rock, don't strike the rock. You struck the rock 40 years ago, it gave you water. Now I just want you to speak to it. And I don't know what you're supposed to say to the rock, but you speak to the rock. And this is what's challenging. Moses has a choice. I can trust God or I can ignore God. And it's like in this moment, God did to Moses what I used to do to my kids when they were little. I'd say, put your hands on Dad's face. You probably heard me say this. And they would put their hands on my face because it would make them look me in the eye. And I'd say, Dad wants you to do this. And it's because it was really important. And God's like, speak to the rock, don't strike the rock. And this is where it goes. Moses says, listen, you rebels. He just says, I'm going to chastise all these people. There's hundreds of thousands, maybe a million Israelites. I'm just going to chastise them. I want you rebels to know you're the reason we're in another tough mess. It's my job right now to shame you, make you feel bad. You are the problem. And he's like, you've ever said this? I just can't do anything with those people. I just can't do anything with my kids. I just can't do anything with the people that work under me or for me or with me. You rebels. Moses was not even supposed to speak to him, and now he's chastised him. Something is going on in Moses' heart. And then he says this interesting thing. He says, must we bring water? And this is so fascinating because it's like Moses is taking responsibility for providing water for the people. Now you need to know this if you don't. For 40 plus years, God had been providing manna from heaven that would fall every day. It was bread and water for the people, and everything that the Israelites had was from their heavenly Father. But for whatever reason in this moment, Moses is like, must I do this? Do I have to take credit? Do I have to do the work for you people? No, Moses, you haven't done anything but lead. You're taking credit for something that does not belong to you. Something is awry with Moses' heart. In Numbers, it goes back and it says, then Moses raised his hands. He struck the rock twice with the staff. He was supposed to speak to the rock. He decided to take matters into his own hands against God's instruction, and he struck the rock. And this is so interesting. He struck the rock with his staff, and the water gushed out of the rock. This is such a big deal that we can just blow by if you're just reading it fast and not paying attention. At least I can. Moses did not do what he was supposed to do. He, next slide, guys. He strikes the rock. He didn't do what God asked. But the huge detail in that, even though he was disobedient to God, God provides. He didn't do what he was supposed to do, and God makes water burst forth out of this rock. And it's like God is saying, listen, even though you're not paying attention and trusting me, I'm still going to be trustworthy. And again, there's a lot of people in this room that could tell you, yeah, there was a moment in my life, a time in my life, and maybe you're in it, that I wasn't trusting God, but God was still trustworthy, that God provided in light of our disobedience or not paying attention or following. It's an amazing story of Jesus. He showed up when we weren't paying attention, and he saved the world or opened the door to be saved when we weren't doing what we were supposed to do. But here's the challenge. God still provides because he loves us as his children, but in these moments there's still consequences. Things still go awry. Back to our story. It says, but the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, because you did not trust me enough to demonstrate my holiness to the people of Israel. And he says this to both Moses, who did the deed, and Aaron, his brother. And God's like, I wanted you to demonstrate my character, how I care for people, why I mattered, because I want people above all things to trust me. Because in trusting me is where the best path forward is, that I am good. And maybe for you, you feel this way right now. God may be faithful, or you're not even sure if you believe in God, but there's some consequences coming down the path because of your decision or maybe someone else's decision. And what happens to Moses and Aaron is the consequences show up. They decide not to listen to God, and something goes sideways. And now, Like so many of us, when things go sideways, they're looking for someone to blame. And remember, it's not just Moses, it's Aaron. And Aaron didn't strike the rock, but Aaron didn't stop Moses. He didn't redirect Moses. He was just there. He was culpable. And it's so interesting that you would say that. There's some times in your life that you were just the innocent one, but someone in your family did something and you saw or faced the consequences. You had nothing to do with it, but some of the retribution came on you in your life. Your dad messed up and you paid a price. Your spouse did something that blew up your family and you paid the price. Or maybe you were the one that blew up and someone else in your life paid the price. And now Moses and Aaron, they're in this together. We go back to the story in Numbers. It says, but the Lord also said, Moses and Aaron, because you did not trust me enough to demonstrate my holiness to the people of Israel, here's the consequence for both of you. You will not lead them into the land that I am giving them. This is kind of brutal. Every time I've read this as an adult, this is kind of brutal. Moses and Aaron have led these people for 40 plus years. They make a mistake. They don't get to enter in the promised land. Now, just so you know, and this helps me think about this clearly, I am convinced when Moses and Aaron saw Jesus and their heavenly Father face to face, they thought the promised land was really good, but it does not compare to what we get to see now. We see the ultimate promised land. But in this moment, things have gone sideways. And in this moment, Moses is looking for someone to blame. And this is that place where he starts thinking, hey, it's all the Israelites' fault. And maybe it's Aaron's fault. Maybe he's even thinking, it doesn't say this, God, this is your fault. You've left us out here for 40 or 50 years, and I want to blame someone. And the point of this story, at least the easy point, is this. When you mess up, own up. That's the easy thing to understand. And if I just could get myself and all of us to just grab onto that, I promise you our lives would go in a better direction. You want a better marriage? When you mess up, own up. And I wonder, and I'm not sure about this, I wonder if immediately if Moses would have gone, oh, that was wrong, I'm sorry, if maybe things would be different. I don't know that, but maybe. But there's a deeper thing I think we can draw out of this story, and that's not just own up, which we should do. When things go sideways, are you and I willing to take responsibility to make it right again? And to jump in and take responsibility along the way, because there's consequences. But I want to figure out who's responsible. And often when we think about who's responsible, I want to say you're responsible. It's your job to make everything right. But what if we decide, I'm going to take some responsibility for this? And every time we take responsibility, we have two choices with consequence and responsibility. And the two choices are simply, we can assign responsibility to you, or we can assume responsibility for ourselves. And this is tricky, so hang with me for a second. When things go sideways, I'm going to assign you did it, it's your fault, you should have, you didn't do what you were supposed to do. And Moses, he blames the people along the way. What if he would have just assumed responsibility? What if he would have just went, listen, I messed up, Aaron messed up, we messed up, you all messed up, we're going to lean in to try and make this right. And so often in our world, we go, no, I didn't do that. I'm out, it's your fault, I'm walking. I just hope it works out for you. On the way home on the airplane from Montana, I watched that old movie, remember The Titans with Denzel Washington. It's such a great movie if you haven't seen it. It's about a football team that black young men and white young men are integrated in the 70s down in Virginia. And it tells the story about it. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. And in that movie, the two stars of the football team are Julius Campbell and Gary Batir. It's such a good movie. And Gary's captain of the team, and Julius is a superstar defensive end. And these two are going at it, the white kid and the black kid, and they can't figure out how to do life together, and it's affecting everybody. And Gary, the team captain, says to Julius, your attitude is selfish, you're serving yourself, and it's rubbing off on everybody else. And he's absolutely right. But Julius fires back, and he says, attitude reflects leadership, Captain. Sure, I got a bad attitude, but you're leading the way because your attitude is just as bad. And you know this. When you lead the way, whether it's in your family, as a coach, in your workplace, whatever it is, when you lead the way, your attitude reflects on everyone else. Your attitude towards your marriage right now, and this is tough, reflects on how your spouse treats you. You set the pace, and I set the pace for people that follow. And I tell you that because I think Moses' attitude somehow had gotten off track because of the circumstances. And there's a little bit, when he stands up and he calls them, you rebellious people, he's got a little bit of moral superiority going on. And you know this, it's never fun to be around people that feel morally superior to you. I'm gonna make myself the judge of you. Now there is this thing, and I have to say this just from my own conscience, where we're like, you should never judge anybody, you shouldn't ever judge anybody. Sometimes you have to make judgments, especially in church, like, who gets to work with the kids and who doesn't. That's a call we make as staff here at church. But when it's out of moral superiority, like I'm just way better than you, things go in a terrible direction. And somehow, Moses has landed in this grumbling, I'm better than you along the way. And our problems are your fault. Brene Brown says this really interesting thing. She's done some incredible writing. She says blame, because that's what we're talking about, it's what Moses did, is simply the discharging of discomfort and pain. I blame you because I don't want to feel bad about me. I blame you because I don't want to feel guilty. I don't want to feel convicted. And I power up and I distance because you're the problem, not me. And anytime you blame, I unload my discomfort on you. It creates a gap along the way. We think about this idea of moral superiority. I know the problem. I'm so smart. I'm the good guy in my own story. The problem is you. Versus, think about this. Two people, forget the whole team thing, it can happen in a team, but when two people decide we got a problem, and we're not gonna worry about who's to blame, we're just gonna stand shoulder to shoulder in our problem, and we're gonna figure it out. The easiest thing to pick on is in marriage. I'm just convinced two people that decide, I'm not blaming you, I'm just gonna take responsibility and we're gonna put Jesus in the middle. I think any two people that are struggling in a marriage can recover their marriage and redeem their marriage when it's hard, if they're willing to go, hey, let's work together on this. And let's get Jesus in the middle. I'm gonna serve and I'm gonna forgive and I'm gonna love, as opposed to blame, blame, blame. Moral superiority in the blame game is so hard to overcome. The other side of this is also when you decide you have a victim mentality. When you decide, oh, listen, I'm Moses and I'm the hero, but no one's listening to me. I'm getting picked on. It's not fair. And when the words, it's not fair, come out of your mouth, you just go down an unhealthy place. And here's the thing, when it comes to what we do as a mission, when it comes to do as a church, when we're trying to get something done, the word, it's not fair, it just cripples us, because then we just start feeling sorry for ourselves. A country, or groups of people in a country that decide, I'm the victim, it's not fair, it's just like they put themselves in a place to be hurt and abused and downcast even more. This is why most likely Israel wandered for so many years, because they couldn't get out of this victim mentality and the superiority mentality. And Moses, well, he just wanted to assign blame to other people along the way. Because this idea of assigning versus assuming responsibility, it's just dangerous. And it creates bitterness in our own hearts. And again, you may know somebody that does these things, and the hard part is for you, somebody may know you and can see from the outside that you and I do these things. And I just want you to know this. Weak people blame. Strong people take responsibility. Leaders take responsibility and influence their environment they're around. Again, it's why what Brene Brown says is so powerful, that blame is simply the discharging of discomfort and pain. And when you do this, you stop growing. This doctor who's been known for a lot of brain science, Dr. Robert Anthony, said, when you blame others, you give up your power to change. Think about this. When you blame others, even if some of it's true, you give up your power to change. I can't take responsibility because of what they did to me. I can't own up because of my childhood. I can't move forward because of the way our country is. I mean, that's a just nauseating thing we hear over and over and over, no matter what side of the aisle you are on. And ultimately, it denies Jesus the ability to work in you. I can't change, or Jesus, I can't let you change me. And Jesus is a gentleman. He won't change you unless you open up your life to him. And here's the reason why. So just stay at an arm's length, Jesus, because it's just everybody else's fault. This is where I am, and this is where I'm staying. And that is a backwards way to live. So when we think about this whole idea of consequence and being responsible for things, assigning blame or assuming responsibility, when we assign blame to other people, all I'm doing is looking at the circumstances. And when you think about this, when you think about your family, you think about our country, you think about where you work, it just stagnates us in our lives versus a person that assumes responsibility. They can actually change. And some of it's just because the steps of how God created us, and some of it's because we invite Jesus to come in and change our lives. And we have a choice, blame or change. And not just you, but your environment. There's some people that have just decided, listen, I do not want my kids to grow up in the same household that I grew up in. And I could blame my dad, I could blame my mom or my uncle or my grandpa, but that's not gonna help my kids. And I need my kids to have a better life than I had, so I'm gonna change our family. And we have grandkids, it will look so different. I'm making the decision now not to blame, but to change. But it takes taking responsibility sometimes for the things that you and I did not cause. So when it comes to the blame game, it makes your life worse in every area. If you're not sure about this from like a spiritual, scriptural point, you just need to know research has been done, and people that are in the workforce that are blamers, they blame everybody, management, systems, the economy, they get less raises, they're less satisfied with their work, they're less content, and they do not move upward. Statistically, in marriages, the Gottman Institute, you can look this up online, that studies marriages, people that are blamers in a marriage divorce more, have a higher rate of discontentment, there's more angst and lack of joy and less love. It is true in every area of our lives. Socioeconomic groups, people that are stuck in a place where they just can't get ahead and they blame, they're more likely to stay stuck. But people who blame things rarely change things. And isn't it true? It's why we started this church. We want to change our world. We want to change our town and our community, and it's always a choice. Here's the choice. Every time for us, the choice is always, I can blame and assign blame to you, or I can assume responsibility and I can change me and let God change me and my town and my family and our church, and we can move forward in the best possible way. And the antidote to blame is to embrace your and my ability to assume responsibility. And it's such a beautiful choice. And just to make sure it's clear, sometimes you do this when it's not even your fault. Sometimes you have to do this when you haven't done anything wrong. You just assume responsibility because you don't want whatever is unhealthy to keep going forward. So here's my question for you and for me. What's going wrong in your world? What's going wrong in your world on a country level, a world level, on a town level, in your own family or your work or the church I hope you attend and love, and the things that you caused and the things you didn't cause? And how can we take responsibility, even if it wasn't our fault, to say, no, we're gonna make this better, as opposed to complaining about it. And just to pick on all of us one more time on the same subject, and turning on the same news station and watching the same old stories and being mad and calling your kids in and complaining about how things are, as opposed to, no, I'm gonna be a part of taking responsibility for this. I had mentioned for the third time this morning that I was out in Montana with some pastors, and thanks for letting me go to that, because I actually hosted this trip. And there's 18 pastors. I was kind of the host. We showed up at a retreat center in this beautiful place, and part of what we did was fish and hang out, and we're trying to keep pastors in the game longer, because a lot of us aren't lasting. And I was having a breakfast with a pastor. He's 50 years old. He's close to how old I am. And I didn't know him, so I just started asking him about his life. And he said, yeah, I've been doing the ministry thing for a long time. And he shocked me because he said, 10 years ago, my wife died of cancer. And I was like, wow, that's heavy. And here's the thing that kind of comes with our job. I'm not sure it's right, but it comes with our job. That when you do what we do, what I do, it's kind of like, look at God, I'm serving you, I'm doing what you wanted me to do, I'm trying to follow you. And then when tough things happen, the question usually is, why? And anger and frustration. And this guy said, yeah, I was heartbroken, I was devastated, but I also had kids to raise and a church to lead. And I just wanted to stay in a place where I wasn't literally blaming, but I was changing my little part of the world. And I was so impressed by his heart around this very thing. And then he said, yeah, 3 years ago I got remarried. And my wife and I decided we wanted to adopt a baby girl. And he's 50 years old, I'm 55. And I'm thinking, dude, you're out of your mind. I can't be awake that long through the night. So that was just what came into my mind immediately. But I admired it so much. He said, yeah, we just want to do this for somebody else. Because listen to this, he lost his wife to cancer. And the statement was, we want to do this for a young child who needs a mom and dad because God has been so good to us. And not an hour later, we're all hanging out, ready to go into where we're going. And he walks up and says, guys, guess what? And everybody knew his story. Guess what? There's a little baby that's going to be born this week. And they called and told us there's a really good chance we're going to get the little baby girl and we're going to have a baby of our own. And you saw these adult male pastors. We were high-fiving and chest bumping and loving. And it was so cool. It was like this moment of celebration. And at 3 o'clock, we're all out on the river fishing, and we all got the same text from our friend, our new friend that has been through so much. Another couple showed up before we got there, and we're not getting the baby. And we're around the dinner table that night. We all feel heartbroken. I mean, how much more does this guy have to go through? And he said this. He said, I'm just believing that the parents that she's going to were the right parents, and in this situation, we were not the right parents. There it is. And he said, and I believe that there's a baby coming that we will be the right parents for at the right time. And I thought, there it is. He could have chose this and blame. Instead, he decided, I'm just gonna figure out how I can change my part of the world. I'm gonna take responsibility and I'm not gonna get sideways. That does not mean you cannot be sad or share your heart with people or share your hard thoughts with people. But in the end, which is healthier? Am I gonna blame or am I gonna change? The beautiful part of this whole story with Moses is God still loved Moses. In 1,000 years later, the Apostle Paul comes along after Jesus rose from the dead. And he writes about that whole incident in the desert in 1 Corinthians, which is a letter to a church in Corinth. And Paul says, they all ate the same spiritual food in the desert, and they drank the same spiritual drink. For they drank, and here it is, from the spiritual rock that accompanied them. And that rock was Christ. This is the beautiful part as Paul explains it. You can't do this on your own. There's some circumstances you just gotta blame and be angry and bitter on your own. But this is what we believe. We believe as Christians that Jesus lives in us and dwells in us and empowers us and gives us the strength that we cannot do on our own. In other words, Jesus can enable us to assume responsibility and push blame aside and change our little part of the world with his power and his strength and the resurrection. But it's contingent on embracing your ability to assume responsibility. So I'm just inviting you. And if you don't, God's gonna be there and God's still gonna love you, but you're invited to change things and let God change you and not dismiss it by blame, because he's with you and he loves you. And I love you, and I hope somehow we can walk towards a better path that the kingdom of God has called us to. Because without Jesus, we are so lost and it is miserable, with him there is hope. And you're invited. Let me pray for you. Heavenly Father, thank you for the story of Moses. Thank you that we get to talk to Moses about this someday in heaven and ask him all the questions that we're wondering about. I also pray that we learn from his example, not to go down the blame route, but go down the trust route and accept responsibility, welcome it, and welcome you into our lives. And for the person, the man or woman or teenager in this place that's just not sure how they can do it, how they can let go, how they can let go of bitterness and change their little part of the world, I pray that you just meet them where they are and walk with them into the next season of their lives. We love you, and we're so grateful you love us. In your name I pray, amen. Guys, thanks for being here today. We love you. Have a good rest of your day.